It's streaming now.
Okay.
Welcome to the DeFi Standard. This is Patty XRP, and today I have Crypto Ceej with me. And unfortunately, Mickey had something come up, so hopefully he's going to be able to hop on a little later. Otherwise, I'm sure we'll get this trio together again in the future. But for now, me and Crypto Ceej are going to take it. And Crypto Ceej, man, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, brother. It's great to connect with you, Patty, for sure. I tell you, I have been listening to you and Mickey since the beginning, right? Part of the Patreon as well, and it's you guys have been absolute godsend for the community. So I'm really excited to kind of chat with you guys and get this message out, this very important message out to the community.
Absolutely. I'm really excited to have you on. So I think a good place for us to start with is for anybody that doesn't know, Crypto Siege has his own YouTube channel where he is very much into covering, the coming DeFi storm and Flare networks and XRP and all that great stuff. So I pulled this up on the screen for anybody that's interested. Siege also just did a nice video on using Wand Chain earlier today that I highly suggest everybody check out if you want to get kind of a feel for what the Flare Finance platform may look like. But yeah, do you have anywhere else other than the YouTube channel that you put stuff out or?
I do. So YouTube channel and on Facebook, it's the Crypto Siege. So two words, the Crypto Siege on Facebook.
Awesome. Yeah. So if you guys are looking to get more after this conversation, definitely check those out. But yeah, kind of to start this off, would you kind of want to give us a little crypto journey you've been on, kind of what you started with and where you think you're headed now?
Yeah, absolutely. So I got started in 2016 in the space in the latter part of the year in 2016, and it's a funny thing, Patty, because I started out in what they called the lending platform space. I don't know if you're familiar with those, but back in the day, you know, 2 to 7% interest a day was a very common thing, right?
Hmm.
In these platforms. And I was in those. I was in all of those, as a matter of fact. And that's how I entered the space. It's funny now when I think about it that I was taking my hard-earned cash from our cash flow business and buying Bitcoin and giving up my very, very valuable Bitcoin, 600 bucks or so, 600 bucks or so, and giving that up for some platform's token in hopes for getting 2% a day. It's pretty funny now when I think about that. But that's how I got involved in this space. And it was about 10 months later that I started really saying, you know what, I've only had one win out of about 25. That's not a good record. Um, let's start looking at something different. So I really started honing in on those top 10 cryptos and really kind of doing my due diligence, right? I think I came in the space in the beginning just looking to make some cash. And I said, I need to become a student. So I would just get on um, Coin Market Cap and just start hitting, the link for each particular crypto and just learning more about it. And interestingly enough, um, my big turn on educational wise until XRP actually came from Tika Tawari. A lot of people in the community probably know who that guy is, and that's how I really found out and got some in-depth information about Ripple, the company, and XRP, the crypto. And that's when I purchased my first couple $100 worth of XRP back then in 2017. And interesting, it's been an interesting journey since then. But once I start learning more about XRP, of course, I changed my YouTube channel because I had it towards the lending platform space, and I started doing videos on the company Ripple and XRP, and I started my journey then, learning more about it, right? And listening to the OGs in the space in terms of content creators and getting educated about it, and then I kind of started doing my own thing and figuring out the path that I wanted to go. And I really did for a long time, Patty, think that it was just going to be about asset accumulation. I really thought that was going to be the end all be all. Just get these assets, hold on to them, do your homework, and realize the value, and just hold on to them for dear life. And over the past few months, I realized that there's a new journey, and Celsius actually took me to that. So Celsius is kind of like the CeFi platforms of the world, right? They were actually the first company to provide yield at all out of anything. Like Celsius was before DeFi, and Alex Mashinsky really kind of he said something one time that got me on the DeFi journey. He said, "Hey, look, if you guys think that you can go out there in DeFi and do what we do," because he said DeFi was one of their yield producing revenues. It was from DeFi. He said, "If you guys think that you can do what we do, go for it." I'm like, okay, cool. I will. I'll try. I'll check it. I'll look into this DeFi thing. And so that started my journey looking into the different platforms and, checking out PancakeSwap and Uniswap and just, figuring all that stuff out. And I got to tell you, once I figured out or got the news about Flare Networks, everything kind of changed for me. Because for me, it represented such a bigger picture. Once I got the bigger picture, I said, I need to test this DeFi thing with my real money, but test it small. So it was really the vision of Flare Network and Flare Finance that got me to begin testing with platforms like OneSwap.finance, because I saw the big picture. I saw cash flow. And it's one of the things we talk about. We do something on Wednesdays called Generational Wealth Wednesday.
I
And
love that.
right. And we talk about don't tell us about your exit strategy. Tell us about your wealth strategy. And we talk cash flow, and we talk putting your support team together and stuff like that on Wednesdays. And so everything about Flare Network speaks to that very thing. And when you guys started to do your thing, it really it kind of put what's the word I want to say? It was a big emphasis for me to really dig deeper. So I'm like, I was thinking to myself, I don't want to be the content creator that doesn't know what's going on at Flare Network, right? You could be the content creator that doesn't know, but I don't want to be that one. I don't want to be that one. So I'm going to learn a little every single day. And thanks to what you guys have been doing, I've been able to do that. So that's really how I got to where I am now.
Oh, that's awesome. It's kind of funny, like whether you think of it this way or not, you're kind of a DeFi OG before people even knew it was DeFi.
Right, and that's
So
something.
that's pretty great.
Yeah,
People probably thought you were crazy for trading that Bitcoin to get just 2% yield, but you know what? At least you're
yeah,
taking chances. But
right,
yeah,
right.
it's funny how before we were kind of talking about the versus having a cash out plan versus you're saying like a wealth accumulation plan, which I really like that because I mean cashing out can be a part of a wealth accumulation plan, but it's
Mhm.
just one part of it. It's like what are you going to do when you cash out with that money that would be better used than what you're currently doing with it, like in a DeFi or crypto ecosystem. um so, it's kind of like you got to find these balances. And I really like to, try and put up some goalpost about,
Mhm.
what kind of risk am I willing to take and, where would I like to be longer term in my life? Everybody, some people may have more short term goals, but the thing is, you have less time for those to be realized.
Right, right, absolutely. And I do. That's a great question. It's like, what are you going to do when you get there and you're now in the fiat world? And we talk about that all the time on the Wednesday show. But I think it's really hard for people to get that this is really a new financial system that we're part of in the digital asset space. And it's very, very interesting to see how prominent financial verticals like the gold space, and you'll hear of different companies willing to take your crypto for their gold. And I always say, doesn't that make you think, right? I doesn't Why wouldn't that cause you to pause and say, why would they take my crypto for their valuable gold, right?
Yeah.
Why are they doing that? It's got to make you think. And once I kind of got that, and I saw these different platforms be willing to take Bitcoin and be willing to take XRP, I saw some gold places willing to do that. It just really made me realize that the assets that we hold are very, very valuable. And plans change, but you certainly got to have a plan in place, right? Because the first plan you put together is not going to be the plan that kind of gets you there, but you do want to have one in place. And what I've tried to do is just tell people to consider, some other options, right? And for me, DeFi represents all the options that we would want. And so, uh, you got to figure out what's the priority in terms of your assets and value. What's your most valuable asset? Is it the fiat dollar or is it the crypto? What is your most valuable asset? Is it cash flow or is it a savings account? Some things that you really have to figure out, um, because losing that asset is can be massive, right? And so for the longest time, when I was, because I'm an ambassador for the Celsius platform, I was teaching and I was promoting, the 1% of the 1%. They don't liquidate their assets; they leverage
Yeah.
their assets, right? And so, maybe consider that. Maybe consider leveraging asset versus liquidating it, right? So first, you got to acquire the asset, then you got to learn how to earn yield on that asset, and then you got to learn how to leverage that asset in. I'm almost at the mindset now, when I look at an asset, one of the questions in the beginning, one of the questions, probably top three questions is, can I get yield off that asset? Can I earn yield off that asset, right? Because there's some assets that you can't. And it may be a great project. It may solve a real world problem. But if I can't leverage it, if I can't use it to provide liquidity, I'm not sure if it gets up there in the top three. I may still have it in my top 10 or 20, but I think those are important questions that we all must ask of every asset. I think of great projects that aren't in the marketplace yet. And that's cool that it's a great project with great technology. But in terms of holding it on my sheet, on my balance sheet, I'm not sure that's the best move, right? Because it's just a product with great technology. But if it's not in the marketplace, that means I can't, maybe I can't leverage it yet in terms of getting yield. And so I think, exit strategies are cool. I tell people all the time, me and Miss Crypto Ceej, months before we started even getting into DeFi, we signed a contract, right, amongst ourselves. This is what we're going to do when XRP gets to this price. And so I have to honor that contract But when I learned more about Flare networks, I said, well, I have to change my plan and acquire more XRP because I
Mhm.
was not going to miss out on Flare networking what Flare Finance has to offer. So, okay, I'm going to get more of this valuable asset now. I thought I was done, right? You hit this milestone in terms of the number of XRP, you think
Yeah.
you're done, and then something else happens, and so I can't not honor that contract, but so I have to go out and get another milestone of XRP so I can participate in DeFi with Flare Network. And so I think it's important get a wealth strategy because that's the opportunity that we have here. And we're going to talk more about kind of the mindset and mentality, but I think people need to really, really realize that this is just not your 2017 digital asset space. We have evolved, and we have to evolve with it.
Absolutely. And I think that's interesting that you went and said, this spring and everything, I need to go and accumulate more XRP because I definitely got to a point where it was like, I can keep stacking this, or maybe it's time that I should, kind of branch out more with my money. But
Mm-hmm,
once I did enough looking into Flare, I realized that I could just keep stacking XRP and then it would diversify itself now, which I think
mm-hmm,
is really powerful. And it wasn't going to take me, any additional capital to do so. So when you sit there and you see the SEC case come down, maybe stupidly or smartly now looking back at it,
mm-hmm.
I literally bought like every 5 to 10 cent drop in the XRP price from like 53 cents down. I bought it all the way down to 17 cents.
Oh, nice, nice.
Yeah. So I was just like, you know what? I think this thing seems way overstated. People are freaking out. It's a 60% drop is not reflective of what's going on here in any
Mm-hmm,
capacity. So, like, it's while those, points in time can be scary, that's where you got to have your decisions made beforehand and know
mm-hmm.
enough about what you're purchasing or what you own so that you can make those decisions that ultimately may make you the most money in the
Right.
most dire situations. So
Yeah.
like another way was like last when COVID happened. It was like everybody could see from a mile away. I remember reading on like the message boards and everybody, stock market's going to crash, the supply chain's like freezing up and all this stuff. Sure enough, at the end of February, started crashing. Crypto markets are relatively correlated with the stock
Mm-hmm,
market.
mm-hmm.
And, sure enough, crypto had like, 50, 60% drop within a few days. And I
Yep.
was like, you know what? I'm not going to time the bottom perfect, but let's just, kind of layer buy all the way down, get what I can get. And I'm willing to wait until this
Yeah.
comes back because it's going to come back. And I think
Right.
we see at this point, like, there's enough movement from all the people with money in the world and creating new businesses, new infrastructure being built around this, that
Mm-hmm,
it's really just like, how long can I wait? And it's kind of funny because that old saying in finance is the market can stay irrational longer than you can stay liquid, which,
mm-hmm,
I mean, in this case it's like waiting for the market to actually realize that some of these assets are going to be super valuable and we don't
mm-hmm,
need to be having like 50% swings every 6 months. Like it,
mm-hmm,
it just seems illogical to me. But you know what? I've learned I don't think markets are the most rational things in the world. So
mm-hmm. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. And it's a great thing that you've learned that too early on. And I could tell you that it's a very, very interesting thing because I think that somewhere along the line we have to realize as retail investors that um, there's a game in the market, right? And there is market manipulation, and they have resolved in their minds that they can wait longer than we can, and if you don't kind of get that bigger picture, you'll make some mistakes, and or life can get in the way, and that's the challenge. Sometimes life can get in the way, and people have these obligations that have to be met, and that's unfortunate. And sometimes they have to liquidate. But it's just knowing that the market is going to do what the market does, and if you have a plan in place, like you said, you can prepare. But I think more important, if you have some goals and you have a vision of where you can be, it'll help. Kind of withstand the test of time, and let the market just do what it does. And when the timing is right, you can put your plan into action, right? And so thank God for people like BC Backer who can give you a TA perspective, but also kind of help you with the plan as well, and realize that, when the time comes, you can make some decisions. But like I said on Mickey, when you guys did that live stream, I had to make a new plan in terms of quote unquote an exit strategy. So we talk all the time on the channel, have a plan, for sure, because you don't want to wait until when this real bull run comes and not have one. That's dangerous, very, very dangerous thing. And so thank God for you guys and other people that can help you put a plan together, to take advantage of what's going on in the market. But patience is key. If you have a bigger picture that, it's a tough thing to hear, but I really do think it's true that, we're the liquidity, right, for Wall Street and institutions, right? We're the liquidity. And so if once we kind of wrap that up in our brain and understand that, there's a game, but we can learn to play it just as well as them, and patience is a huge part of it, then we can continue to hop on YouTube and listen to you guys and listen to other valuable content creators to help us create that resolve that we need to continue to be patient moving forward.
Yeah, patience is very key,
Mm,
and something only time in the market will give you.
mm.
Even if you think
Yeah.
you're a very patient person coming into any kind of market,
Mhm,
will kind of have you sweating a little bit in the beginning, but as you get used to it, and the more that you realize, that you've researched and understand what's going on, and not over kind of leveraging yourself, like those are
mhm,
all things that will help you make it through those tough times. But
mhm,
so I want to bring it back to one of the things you said earlier about how do we leverage these assets. And in the case of Flare Network and Flare Finance, you're
mhm,
gonna have a very easy way to leverage both the Spark token and any underlying F assets that you own. So
mhm,
you're gonna be able to earn this Spark token daily, and it's like, okay, this is great. I can earn a lot of this Spark token. What is the value gonna be? That's still to be determined. And what long term can happen. So that's where like the research comes in, and like
yeah,
understanding what the Flare network is offering. How are they going about offering? How are they going to keep people around? How are they incentivizing people to participate? These are all things that, like, I know Siege, and we've covered
mhm,
ad nauseum on this channel, but they're very important because
yeah,
well, you can go to a lot of different platforms and earn a lot of different tokens. But the thing is what you're earning going to last? If not,
mm,
maybe you want to go ahead and know that you can trade it into some other asset. But I think it's just very important to take into account. And then also on the leveraging point, one
mhm,
thing that I want to highly stress, and I don't know if you've thought about this much, but, and it's not necessarily stress in the fact that you have to do it, but it's something you should consider, is the Flare Loans platform. This is going to be somewhere that instead of cashing out, you could possibly put your assets up to take, whatever out. You could take a stable coin out or some other crypto to use that somewhere else. So that's a way where you don't have to sell, and you can still use that value you have. But the beauty of that platform is they're going to have YFIN being delivered through it for 2 years to both the lenders and the borrowers.
mhm,
So
mhm,
this is something that like I am extremely interested in, maybe taking out a loan in the beginning if I'm going to be getting a yield stream just for taking out a loan, which is
right,
crazy and something that can only happen in like a network launch when they're fairly distributing the token.
yeah,
So like they're incentivizing borrowers, and it's like, all right, if you're going to tell me I can have a 0% interest rate or something like that, it's like, all right, I'll take advantage. It's not going to be here forever.
mhm.
But I'm curious about your thoughts on using some of the different applications there on Flare Finance.
Yeah, absolutely. Flare Finance is going to be a monster. It really, really is, and it's the most important part in order to really be excited about participating is you really have to have a vision, beyond. I say this on the channel all the time. Like we have to walk away from this 90 to 120-day wind moon mentality, right?
Yeah.
Right. We have to walk away from that, and we have to see the bigger picture. The 2, the 3, then the 5-year picture. And I always talk about this example of a guy that I listen to on YouTube. His name is Noah, and he shares every now and then. He'll share his back office on a platform that he's on, and it's $4,000 to $5,000 a day, and that he's earning, and this is a very short period of time. And when I saw that, I said to myself, that's interesting. And he's not, he may be in the top 20 on this particular platform. And I thought to myself, that's very, very interesting. He mentioned something because we talk cash flow business all the time in the traditional world. And he was talking about a cash flow business in crypto, right? That we all have to learn how to work a balance sheet. We have to be able to list our assets. We have to be able to list what we borrow. We got to be able to list debt. We got to be able to list yield, all these different things, and manage your crypto like a cash flow business. That really, really, really resonated with me. But if you don't have a bigger picture, that's going to be challenging because you're going to be, if you're still stuck in when moon and cashing out, it's going to be challenging to get that bigger picture. So I think it's important to do that. And I just think that, the Spark token is going to be absolutely amazing, but Flare Finance is really going to give you the opportunity to to act and think, to not just think, but also be able to act like the 1% of the 1%. And so that Flare loans where Aave has that with Polygon, right? And so once you get that you can be both a lender and a borrower, once you get that, once you're treated that way, I say it all the time, once you get the feeling and you experience the treatment of being treated like the 1% of the 1%, you will not walk back to the old way, right? Right. You will not go back there, right? And so, I mean, who needs to be sitting on the other end of the table of some dude sitting and looking at you in judgment or worse, condemnation, deciding whether or not you're valuable to them in that bank, right? And so, who needs that, right? When there's DeFi, and so Flare Finance, that loan thing, if they're doing it the way that I think they're doing it, like similar to Celsius, but better, more similar to Aave, that is going to be absolutely outstanding. Where they pay you to both lend and to borrow, that's a big thing. I mean, because you can take the and borrow against your collateral and go put it somewhere else to earn even more yield. But this is what the 1% of the 1%, this is the treatment that they get. And we have an opportunity to be treated that same way. And, we got to walk away from the 1990s kind of mentality because that old financial system doesn't work today, right? So one of the things we say on our channel is go to where your assets are treated best.
Yeah, I hear that. Dang.
You know what I mean? Right? Go to where your assets are treated best. So number one, you got to recognize that you have assets and that you have value, and then go to where your assets are treated best. And I think Flare Finance recognizes that. And so with them coming up with 6 products at one time is absolutely brutal. And I think it's going to be an absolute game changer for sure. So I'm hoping that I know for me, I'll be leveraging the Flare loans, right? So Flare
Yeah.
Edge, Flare Farm, right? I mean, it's without question that I would leverage that because if I can create yield, daily yield and weekly yield, that's for me, that's the goal. That's the goal is to have that because you hold on to the asset and you give the asset time for the market to recognize its value. And that's what that does. It buys you time for your asset to get the recognition as a valuable asset. That's what Flare loans and Aave, that's what it does.
Yeah, so one thing that really like stands out to me is so like I entered into the space December of 2017. I was still in college, so I barely had any money, but I got my hands on some XRP after I had a buddy telling me about it. And from there, I'm just kind of thinking back, what if this DeFi stuff was around in 2018? And we know the market basically went down for 2.5 years after that.
Mm-hmm.
How many people probably sat there thinking, oh, the price is going to go back up quickly, quickly, quickly. And it never happened.
No.
And, that's a scenario. I don't know if we see another 2.5 year bear market like that, but I
Mm-hmm.
certainly think we can have in the future 6 months to a year long bear market. I don't know if they'll be as prolonged. Maybe it will be, but that's a lot of time where your asset isn't providing any additional value to you, even if
Correct.
you hold it.
Yep.
So if you can sit there and utilize those assets, even while you're kind of losing value on the asset to kind of
Mhm.
hedge that downturn. I mean,
Mhm.
that's just something that's super powerful to me and something that I'm really excited about. And so like right now we're kind of faced like, I don't know how much your portfolio's XRP. Mine is pretty much majority right now just based
Mhm.
on what I'm doing, but
Mhm.
we're in a situation that's really weird. We had the whole crypto market shoot up really high. XRP went to $2. Honestly, I wish I should have sold like 5 or 10% of my holdings because I'm realizing I don't know why this hasn't sunk in enough yet. But like
Mhm.
when we're going up, multiples, within a month, it's like honestly, you could probably take a little off the table and you're not going to miss out that much, and then
Yep.
rebuy in lower if you need to.
Yep.
But yeah, so like we had this huge move up, and the whole market's fallen back, probably the tune of 50% on average at this point. In XRP's case, more like closer to 75%. But
Mhm.
XRP clearly had its price suppressed due to this case, and it didn't really start in the beginning part of the bull run. It started at the back half of this kind of section of it.
Mhm.
So it seems, we're going to go in if you want to get in these liquidity pools, especially like FXRP to YUSD.
Mhm.
I'd say if we had been moving up with the rest of the market and kind of moving in tandem and there wasn't this SEC case, it'd probably be a less uncertainty around it. But now
Mhm.
I kind of have this thing. It's like, how much would the XRP price actually go up if the case got cleared and XRP had regulatory clarity? Also, what's a realistic time frame for that to happen in, not just
Mhm.
what I want to happen? So like trying to figure that out right now, I think is really important for participating in Flare X because I mean, ultimately you don't want to have 100% of your XRP holdings, minted as FXRP and in a
Mhm.
liquidity pool with a stable
Right.
coin with this going on, at least
Mhm.
not for a long period of time.
Right.
So
Mhm.
like trying to figure out that balance right now, but that's where we're at a time where there's a lot of different options, which is really great. Like you were
Mhm.
saying, how do we make these work for us? And that's where if you want to get YFin, well, just put 15% or whatever you're willing to risk losing exposure to a large price movement. Just put
Mhm.
that percentage in there. Like it's going to be a battle against yourself,
Yep.
not a battle against other people. There are always going to be other people that did
Mhm.
better than you, whether they know more, they took more risk, they got lucky, they entered at the right time. That's just stuff
Right.
you can't control. We're all
Yeah.
going through different paths. So it's like you are in a competition with yourself. Like I would liken it to playing golf. Like golf,
Mhm.
it's great. You can watch and, see what, like Tiger Woods or like Brooks Koepka or any of them are doing on any given day. But if you're focusing on what they're doing and how good they're doing, you're not going to be advancing yourself. So
Yep.
it's like that's where I think the whole plan thing and just like having some goals makes a
Mhm.
lot of sense and just realize what am I not willing to allow happen and just make sure you prepare so that won't happen to you. It's
Yeah.
like you can be wrong and be okay with it. Like that's how
Right.
I look at my decisions. It's like, should I buy at this price or not? I picked the one where like if I chose the wrong answer that I wouldn't be like all upset about it and causing me to get into like emotional fit or whatever and start
Mhm.
making dumb decisions. But
Sure,
yeah.
absolutely. And you make a very, very interesting point too. So actually a couple of points there that are really good, especially the market, right? And so we all expected something to happen and a bull run to continue, yet it did not, right? And I think about all of that time we could have been in cash flow positions, right? And taking advantage of that. I think about Curve, for example. It feels like that's kind of Curve kind of launched right around that time frame. That platform. They haven't been around very long at all, and they have billions of dollars in TVL. But if we would have known back then what we know today, right? It would have been an easier decision at $2 to do something with a portion of your XP because you could have had a plan to take some of that and put it into cash flow positions, right? Right.
Yes.
So you know what I mean? And that would have worked for you. That would have worked for you. I tell a personal story all the time because we had positions in Bitcoin Cash and Ethereum Classic, Zcash, EOS, and Dash, right? And I remember I leveraged up my XRP when the market went down 50 to 60% just here recently. And I said, huh, so Bitcoin Cash is down more than 50%. if I get some more Bitcoin Cash, it'd be so much easier to be able to double my money and things like that. So we did that, and we borrowed against that, and we, it was tens of thousands of dollars, and we split it up, but we put, the biggest portion into Bitcoin Cash. And I remember thinking, well, that didn't work out, right? Because Bitcoin Cash hasn't even got back to that point yet.
I had some of the same thoughts because I was looking, I was like, Bitcoin Cash was a darling last time around, and I was
Mhm,
sitting there like, oh, maybe should I get my hands on some of
mhm,
this?
mhm. Exactly.
Yeah.
And think about that. And so I think about it. So for example, it was an additional $10,000. And so I'm thinking to myself, this $10,000 that I have in what I feel is a great asset that I feel is going to get picked up. And I personally believe there will be a smaller nation country that will pick it up. It's just, I really do believe all those different things. I know the technology, I know how it's cheaper and it's faster and all of these different things, right? But
Hmm.
yet that value is locked, right? It's locked. There's nothing I can do. I've been beholden to the market the whole time. Yet, if I were to take that $10,000 and just merely, because time is important, and just merely take that 10,000 and put it on a platform like Aave or put it on a platform like Curve, the money would be working for me. But most important, I would not be beholden to the ebbs and the flows and the sideways movements and the manipulation of the market. I would be free to create cash flow. And that was a real personal story, but that is a great example of the difference in how you put your money to work, right? And again, this is from someone who has an established portfolio, right? And I was going on for a while talking about perhaps during a bull run that perhaps a better strategy with your, I call it dirty nasty fiat on the channel all the time. Perhaps a better strategy is to put it into stable coins and put the stable coins into to work where you earn an asset, but you still have access to the stable coins, like on Curve or Aave, where you just deploy stable coins and you earn Matic, or you deploy stable coins and you earn Sushi, or you deploy stable coins and you earn Curve. But yet, when it comes time for you to pull your cash out, you can do so and go earn more yield, right? And so I said, I was saying to the community all the time, well, maybe that's a better strategy during the bull run. But the big point to it is it can give you more leverage. It can give you more flexibility where you're not beholden to the market. And I think that is hugely, hugely important. And it was a big lesson for me. The big lesson was, don't take all of your dirty, nasty fiat and put it in an asset. Perhaps leave a certain percentage so that you can deploy stable coins and you can go put those stable coins to use. Maybe you can put the stable coins off to the side and you can wait for cheaper prices, and you can take some of those stable coins and go put them to use where you can create cash flow, right? And so that was a big lesson. Don't go 100% of your dirty nasty fiat into an asset, because now you're dependent on the market. You're totally dependent on the market. Now you have to be good with that, but do you have to do 100% of that $1,000 into an asset that you've been holding to the market? Or can you do just 50% into an asset and take the other 50% and be able to deploy it with better strategies to create cash flow, right? And so that was a big time lesson for me. Now I've heard people say, keep some stable coins on the side, but I hadn't heard people say take those stable coins and go put it into use until later, right? And so it was a lesson learned for me. And so now I know, there's some better strategies, because here's the thing: timing is everything, right? And I know a lot of people, they have this question. I'm not sure why, but they have this question about Flare Networks or Flare Finance in terms of impermanent loss. And I get the scary side of it. I just think people don't understand the market and its cycles, because it's very obvious to me that, the bull runs, they don't last a whole long. Like there's just not a whole long period there. Whereas the sideways movements and the bear, they seem to last longer. So if you put both together, both the sideways movement and both the bear part of cycles, those are longer. So if whether it be 7 months versus 5 months, or whether it's 8 months versus 4 months, it's still longer. And so, time, is everything, especially when it comes to your money. If you don't have money movement or velocity of money going on, that's an opportunity cost right there. And
Hmm.
so we got to figure out ways to create cash flow and create money velocity where the money is making money for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's funny that you were talking about, using stable coins and having some positions in fiat. So like, I'm young.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
basically have been extremely risky about my crypto positions, not necessarily leveraging up, but just not holding fiat. But,
Hmm.
I've kind of realized over the past year or so that it is nice to have some fiat on the side so that I can take advantage of just stupid swings in the market. And so,
Hmm.
like, I mean, right now you don't have to do this, but like, I've gotten one of my bigger fiat positions that I've had just
Hmm.
because the market is so uncertain right now. But the beauty is here with Flare Network, which I think is something very possible we could see by the end of the year, is we start seeing some stablecoin to stablecoin pools. So
Hmm.
now you would not just be holding fiat and you're like, yeah, I'm not earning anything with this, but I just want to hold it, in case the market falls and I can make a profit off buying a discount. But
Hmm.
now you could also, in the meantime, earn yield. And, why would we need a stablecoin to stablecoin pairing? Well, we're about to have Trustline and Flare Finance. Trustline is going to have Ore and TCN. Ore is a
Hmm.
complete stable coin, and TCN's considered a semi-stable coin just because it could maybe trade higher, be by the nature of it having maybe some higher access to yield or governance voting. And then
Hmm.
Flare Finance is also going to have YUSD, which
Hmm.
we don't know the entire machination of how that's going to be constructed. However,
Hmm.
what I've been able to gather, it's similar to something called this liquidity protocol, which we started looking into.
Hmm.
So we'll see what they change from that. But they also have Cross USD, which is going to be CUSD, and that's
Hmm.
going to be wrapped Tether, USDC, and the Terra stablecoin. So it's going to be a basket of those things wrapped over.
Wow.
But so how do we bring assets, or how do we swap between these different stable coins if you need to use them for different reasons? Well, naturally, we could get a listing on the FlareX exchange for a stablecoin to stablecoin pool. No
Hmm.
impermanent loss from that pool. So all you're doing is collecting fees in the meantime
Yep.
while, you're waiting to see a market move before you decide how to deploy your cash. So like
Mhm.
that's a really novel thing for me. Because there's no liquidation in liquidity pools, which is awesome. So really, the only risk in liquidity pools is, and it's not necessarily a financial risk in the traditional sense. It's that
Mhm.
impermanent loss, which is just an opportunity cost measure,
Right.
which isn't technically classified as a financial risk because
Mhm.
it's not,
Mhm.
you're not risking the money you're putting in. It's just, could I have done better somewhere else? Which
Exactly.
every day we buy a crypto, you're faced with opportunity costs, even if you don't think about it or not.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. And also, like, we kind of get like people are always asking, it's like, oh, what if XRP goes to like, $20 overnight, or I'll see like $100. And I'm like, so you're banking on something that's never happened in the history of any single asset of the entire
Mhm.
world, which, I don't like to close myself off to things that have never happened because obviously, like, stuff happens, the financial crisis, black swans, all that kind of stuff can happen. But like, I don't want to sit here and develop my entire strategy around some outlier event that may never happen in my
Right.
entire lifetime.
Yep.
It's something to be aware of, but
Mhm.
you know, it's not something to be fearful of, I'd say. It's,
Right.
plan for it. If you see things moving in a certain direction, you can always move out. I think the
Right.
thing people, and one thing I've realized is everything takes way longer than you think it does,
Mhm.
to happen, whether it's inflation, like, the Fed's printing money like crazy. I think that, over one third of the supply has been increased
Mhm.
in the past year. But it doesn't seem like inflation's up like hyperinflating like maybe you would think that would cause. It's just
Mhm.
there's a lot of things, and it's hard for us to piece together every little variable that affects something, and there may be variables out there that are pushing it the opposite way. So what you're thinking may happen, and common sense isn't going to happen. So
Right.
patience, and like you said, these sideways markets and bear markets can happen for a long time.
Yep.
And even if you're in, like, let's say a little bull market, like if your asset 2x in the matter of a couple months, that's a pretty great return. The impermanent loss is actually not that terrible in that situation.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah, and the other part of that as well too is I remember in sometime in 2018, I remember sitting in front of it. I just did a live stream, and I remember thinking, is this is this going to be the space where you just come in with your dirty nasty fiat, you buy an asset, you put it on a ledger, and you just wait? Like I remember thinking, is that going to be the space? Is this whole new asset class just going to be just dependent upon that, and everybody's just going to get rich because of that? Because they merely took some money out of their account and they merely bought an asset, and when the bull run came, they became millionaires and multimillionaires. Is that going to be that this new asset class? That's it. I remember saying that doesn't make sense.
Hmm.
That doesn't that like it doesn't make sense, right? Um, there's going to have to be a leveling up and in a little bit of a skill set to become a multimillionaire in this space. It has to be that way. It's to be a viable new asset class, right? It's going to have to be that. And so when you think about managing a portfolio, most people in our community don't think about managing a portfolio. They think of using a portfolio, but not managing that portfolio. They think of having something on Blockfolio or having something on Exodus where you can look at it, but not managing it, not putting it to work, not making it work for you. And that's one of the big shortcomings that we have in this community, is this mindset and mentality of just buy this asset and just hold on for dear life, leave it on that ledger and just hold on. And somewhere along the line, someone has to be, say to themselves, "Is that it?
Yeah.
Is that all?" Right? It doesn't make sense, right? And so even something with portfolio managing, where you just say, I'm not going to have 100% of my assets on Celsius. I'm going to have it on Celsius, and I'm going to have it a small portion of it somewhere else. That's a bit of portfolio management. Another part of portfolio management is saying, okay, I'm not going to just have 100% of my stuff on something awesome like Aave. I'm going to take some of it from Aave and I'm going to put it on Curve, and I'm going to take some of it from Curve and I'm going to put it somewhere else. Like there has to be a measure of managing your crypto in order to establish real wealth. It can't just be as simple as taking the dirty, nasty fiat and buying an asset. There has to be more to it for it to be, for this market in this space to be credible and work and last a long time, right? Has to be more to it. Now we're learning that. We're discovering there's got to be a little, right? Because think about the opportunity cost that we've had thus far. I gave my personal example. That's a big time learning lesson. That's a big lesson. 10 grand just it's dormant now. It's I'm totally beholden to the market. That's a big time lesson, right? And
Hmm.
so managing, I could have taken that 10,000 and deployed it in a different way. That's managing your portfolio. So if your portfolio is made up of dirty, nasty fiat and stable coins and assets that earn yield and assets that do that you can stake, the whole thing, how are you managing that? And if I think that if you get to a point where you say, and I'll tell you, there was a poll on Twitter. The poll said, would you rather have $1 million that in value can go to 2 million in assets in crypto, or would you rather have $600,000 a year in cash flow? There was a poll that went around, and overwhelmingly, the people chose $600,000 a year every single year in cash flow. Well, you're not going to get that if you're just taking money and buying an asset and holding on to it. You're not going to get cash flow that way. There has to be other steps. There has to be a second and a third step. But I thought it was really, really interesting that people chose the $600,000 versus having $1 million worth of crypto with a chance for it to go to 2 million, right? And I think this is a message that we need to get to our community, especially our community, the XRP community. I think it's so very, very, very important because it's such a bigger gain here. Once you get cash flow and you have assets that you can hold on to and you can create cash flow, and 10 years from now, you still have your assets, but your cash flow is increased significantly, where you can have that millionaire and multi-millionaire status from cash flow. That's powerful. That's a very, very powerful thing. And, it was so cool to hear that you and Mickey had that same message and had that same mentality, because that's what we have with Flare Networks and Flare Finance. We have an opportunity to hold on to these assets, put them to use to create cash flow, put them to use, not leaving them on the ledger. That that's not creating cash flow.
Yeah.
Putting them to use, putting those assets to use. And unfortunately, for years we kind of been, you know, I don't know, kind of, been sold on, whether it's flipping of the switch or a price set or any of those kinds of things. Unfortunately, that's left a mindset that is detrimental currently. Because I think I always say this to Ms. Crypto Ceej all the time. I say, look, if I recognize the change in the market, surely they have recognized the change in the
Yeah.
market, right? You got to recognize that this is not your 2017 digital asset space. It's a different thing. And I think of my buddy again, $4,000 a month, a day rather, in cash flow. And I'm just thinking, and he told us flat out, he didn't start out with, it was 1.1 million in total deposits. That 1.11 million grew to 1.1 million in value. It might have been 100 grand, right? And I'm thinking, okay, 100 grand. Yeah, a lot of us could get to 100 grand in crypto.
Yeah.
And what if we took that same 100 grand and put it somewhere where it could grow to $4,000 a day? That is powerful. It's better than the 100 grand. Like, it's significantly better.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. And I mean, for me, when I came in, I definitely kind of had those same ideations like, all right, this thing, it's going to start getting used by all the big people and then it's going to go up in value, which I mean, that could still be true, but it's
Mhm.
taking a lot longer than I would have imagined originally. And I think it's because I was in this mindset of thinking that these bigger players would act like I would. But the facts
Mhm.
are they're bigger players and they don't have to get as much yield or anything to make, bucket loads of cash.
Right.
For me to make that kind of money, I need XRP to like, 10, 20x or something to get up there. So
Mhm.
like they don't need to everybody's like, "Oh, Ripple needs to sell this escrow, and if it got to a certain price, then they'd be so wealthy." I'm like, "But they don't need to wait for that. They're already a wealthy company. They already have tons of assets under their control." And that's why
Mhm.
we see people like market makers that don't care what the price is. Like all they're doing is constantly scalping prices every second of the day.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that's kind of like that compounding factor. That stuff adds up over time. Like if you haven't, like, go look up a compounding calculator online and see how much
Mhm.
$1 compounds on a daily basis,
Right.
over a couple of years and what that could be worth.
Right.
Now, we're
Right.
going to have that opportunity here with Flare Finance and Flare Network and Trustline and, all these different protocols we're going to see come to the Flare Network in the future. And we'll probably see ones from Ethereum. Like me and Mickey were talking the other day, like Compound's already moved to multiple, to other different DeFi protocols. So, like, and
Mhm.
it's not just going to be Flare's going to run the DeFi space. It's not going
Mhm.
to be that. We're going to see a future where maybe you have FXRP on Flare and there's something on Polkadot that actually makes sense for you to use, but then you can propagate that FXRP and use that value there. Like, I think there's a lot of room for a lot of winners in this
Yep.
space, just like there's tons of companies within, each industry in the US or
Mhm.
the world
Mhm.
economy. Like some are bigger players for sure, and we're definitely going to see those. Like,
Mhm.
Bitcoin and Ethereum have been the bigger players, but that doesn't mean there's not room for other people to succeed.
Mhm.
And so I think just like getting to that point is so important. And with I think the community's actually done a really good job over the course of the last 6 months from
Mhm.
like when we started the level of the majority of the questions I get now are like some really really good questions where I'm just like,
Mhm.
oh man, I got to really think about that one, or like I may
Mhm.
not know the answer, let me try and
Right.
figure that out.
Right.
And I just think once people see this live, it's like you don't have to, if you think it's too risky getting in on a new network, you have concerns, don't get in for a few months. That's
Mhm.
totally
Mhm.
fine. But we're
Yes.
just saying for the people that want to take that chance and possibly set themselves up pretty well for like the future of the Flare network if it works out, the best time to do that is at the beginning, which makes sense. You got to incentivize people to come on the platform and use it in some way. So offering them higher yields in the beginning is 100% a way to do that.
Mm,
And there is like we're going to be trusting and using a brand new network
yep.
that they've done testing and stuff on their test net and all these kinds of things. We can evaluate Hugo, we can evaluate his team. Maybe that's not good enough for you and you got to wait. Totally fine. But,
Yep.
for other people where they have trust in, Hugo, his team, the backers behind it, what their vision is, things like that. When we see these security audits, you know, taking that chance at the beginning is, how you get ahead. It's very difficult to make a lot of money without taking some level of risk. And
Hmm.
it's really just about picking your spots. It's like there's a lot of different things that you could do risky plays, and some are going to work and some are not. I mean, like for those that have seen read the Big Short book, the two young guys in that movie that have their hedge fund, their whole hedge fund was around betting on really what people would call risky option contracts because they thought people were underpricing them based on the likelihood of them happening, which is actually a really common phenomenon that people really discount things that can't happen in the traditional markets, which is interesting. But they had very few winners, but their winners were big and it worked for what they were doing.
Yep.
So it's like there's a lot of different ways to do things, and it's not going to be one to one for everybody. And there's going to be people with different levels of capital. I mean, there's people in our community with millions of XRP, and they've done really well for themselves over their life and are able to do that. Or, they got in really early and were able to do it that way. There's going to be people that maybe are just coming in with $10,000. I mean, I think there are going to be ways that you can use your $10,000 to earn income. Now, you may not want to go into liquidity pools if you're trying to make a lot of money with that $10,000, because
Hmm.
obviously, maybe you're only putting in 1K into a liquidity pool and you'd rather just take the chance that the price is going to go up. But for
Hmm.
somebody with 50K, it may make sense for them to put 10K in a liquidity pool where they're actually earning pretty good yield on that.
Right.
So, the thing with options, that means there's a lot of ways to put together
Mhm.
plans and strategies and all that stuff.
Absolutely. And DeFi, right? That it represents such a big opportunity, right? That we don't want to let it slip through our fingers for sure. And I always say, this is our chance to win. The digital asset space is our chance to win. And the message really on my channel all the time is just getting people to believe that it can happen for them. There's a lot of times people just they don't see it happening for them, but it's going to take some work. This right, it's going to take some work, and this work of whether it's I think of Urine Finance as an example, and a lot of people in the channel they say that it's a really good example. You know, Urine Finance was a new platform, right? It was a new platform, and they had a big time $11 million issue. Like that's a big issue,
Mhm.
$11 million, right? And they started with a group of people. They started as a new platform or network, right? And they had an issue, but they got through that issue because it was a good project with a good idea and a good concept. And they got through that, right? And I think that's the opportunity of Flare Network. We don't know if it's going to have an issue or not have an issue, but we got to be aware of that possibility, but also be aware of the future possibility of a big win of Flare Finance, rather, of TVL at whatever level, right, in the billions. I think that synergistic thing between Flare Network and Flare Finance, whatever attributes Flare Finance can gather and take from Flare Network, I think it's going to be absolutely massive. But we have that opportunity. I think I just liken me personally. I don't know, but I liken YFIN to YFI.
Oh,
Right,
100%.
right. I liken that possibility. And so, if you're not aware of your finance and you're not aware of what that YFI token got you, and you're not aware that it's 4 billion in TVL, and I don't think anything's been around for 3 years in DeFi, right? I don't think anything's been around for 3 years yet. So just think about how powerful that is. And that's the opportunity that we have. But my question would be, would you be willing to stick with Flare Finance if they had an issue like Yearn Finance had? Would you be willing to stick with it? right?
Mhm.
Would you be willing, you know what I mean? Or can you learn from that lesson? I tell people all the time, don't chase the game, let the game come to you. So test it out very small, but test it out, check it out, show your support. Here's the vision. It's 4 billion in TVL. That's the vision. Are you willing to participate in something like that? Are you willing at that possibility? Are you willing to take 1% of your asset and start with Flare Finance to see if that can happen? Give that, that possibility a chance to become a reality. But if they don't know, right? If we don't, you and I and Mickey and we don't talk about compound and maker and yearn finance and Ollie and curve and think about those possibilities, right? People aren't going to know. That's why we need more people so we can get the message out because that's the possibility. I really, really do believe that. That's a big time possibility. And I think Flare Finance being built on Flare Network gives it a heads up. I mean, a better shot. I really, really, I think it gives it a major advantage. I really, really do. And they have governance over there as well. And I think that's hugely important. We'll be able to participate in that. And so we have an opportunity to, make that governance, whether it be Flare Networks or whether it be Flare Finance, we have an opportunity to make that the model for the DeFi,
Yeah.
right? We have that opportunity, right? We have an opportunity to actively participate, to believe that our vote counts and to believe that our voice matters in terms of that vote. Or we can just sit back and just say, it doesn't matter. What I do matters. That little spark that I put or the wide flare that I put, it really doesn't matter, right? We have these opportunities and we have a choice. We just got to believe that it's valuable. And that's what I constantly do on the channel is say, no, 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 no. What you do is important. What you do is worthy. Let's participate, right? And let's give it a shot. So let's go out there and try to be the governance model that others look to and strive for when their new project comes out.
Yeah, it's like this is what I got into crypto because, I'm pretty skeptical person growing up,
Mm-hmm,
in
mm-hmm,
college did a lot of looking into, how our, governments are run, how our financial systems run and all that stuff and I'm kind of like, yeah, I don't really like this system. And then,
mm-hmm,
sure enough, I start learning about crypto on the back end of school. And then as I started a job, and I really like the idea of, we're kind of starting to take things into our own hands and,
mm-hmm,
level the playing field, financial
mm-hmm,
inclusion. Well, part of that is taking responsibility onto yourself and figuring out how to apply these things,
yep.
which right now it's definitely a difficult task. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes patience, discipline, all those things. Sure,
Yep.
one day we're going to have things that will just automatically do it for you, but right now that's not there. And if you want to get the highest multiples on what the future value could be, you have to put in that work now. And
Absolutely.
with DeFi, we have this opportunity that we're completely taking it into our own hands. It's not just
Mm-hmm,
waiting on somebody like Ripple, to build out a product that makes my asset
right.
valuable. Now my asset already is valuable
Right.
and I can start using that value on my own, come up with my own plans. And, I'm big on like I can take control of my own like financial well-being and everything now. It's not just sitting in a 401k and hoping the stock market goes up enough percentage points a year for me to retire, in a nice way, and maybe live somewhere decent and go out to eat every now and then. It's not
Mm-hmm,
just about that. Now, like, I can affect a strategy to get to where I want to be.
yep.
Maybe I want to be at a place that's, higher than most people. Maybe I live somewhere
Mm-hmm,
where I don't have to earn as much money. And so I can play it differently. But that's the
mm-hmm,
thing is like now we have control over it, somewhat. There's still going to be price swings in the market, but
mm-hmm,
you at least have a, portion if you put in the time to learn and understand this stuff where you can start affecting change in your own life and maybe eventually your family's life or your
mm-hmm,
community's life. It's like, I've had these thoughts about I kind of wish our governments were more centered on our communities because it's easier for me to relate with people that I live around. It's kind of hard for me to see something, I live in the Southeast, like happening up in Washington. I'm like,
mm-hmm,
that's so abstracted for me, even though we're in the same country. It's just hard to,
mm-hmm,
relate with them. But like, if I saw something bad happening in my hometown, like I feel that in my heart.
mm-hmm,
So it's like
mm-hmm,
now, like we could even make DeFi ecosystem centered around like a local town, and it's like people could start, putting up money for other people to build a business there instead of
Mhm.
you just having these political power brokers saying, "Oh, if we'll give you tax breaks if you come and do this." It's like, "Okay, how about we're citizens of this town. We want to
Right,
see the town succeed. We'll put up
right.
money in return for some of the profits and you
Mhm.
guys can build that business here." Like I just
Right.
think this is opening the door for so many things that can help the world. Sure, it could go totally wrong and maybe it gets into a more like controlled world, who knows, but
Mhm.
at least we're now getting the opportunity to kind of enact this stuff and kind of practice what I feel like a lot of us are thinking in our heads and all that kind of stuff. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
And that's, that's those are great points. And not just, there's this feel or sense that I get that people think that things are out of their hands. What they do doesn't matter, that they can't take financial responsibility, right? That they have to be beholden to something. And that's just, I think that DeFi is really should really be opening the eyes to possibilities that you can take control of your financial future. And I want more people to get that they don't have to be beholden to the market or any other forces. They can go out and can create a future for themselves. And I think that is it's a powerful thing. We just got to get people to believe that it's possible for them. And DeFi does that, right? It really, really does. And Wand Swap and these little platforms where you can take a look at it and just for $5 or $10 and see what it feels like. Because I really believe once you get that treatment, again, I know I said this earlier, but once you get that treatment of that 1% of the 1%, how they're treated and how their assets are treated, you won't go back into that old financial system any longer. You won't go back there. And so, our goal for sure is to get more people to participate and look at that and see what that feels like, right? Because we say it on the channel all the time. We need a new 1%, right?
Yeah.
Right? We need a new 1%. So we need more of the average Joes and the average Janes realizing that this new asset class out there that's available to them, they don't know, right? And that's why I love Celsius Network so much, because Celsius is one of those rare positions where they have a motto that brings more people into the space.
Yeah.
Right? They increase the size of the pie. DeFi is people in the space and having had some experience in this space where, right, so that we're working amongst ourselves. But Celsius, we need Celsius, but Celsius increases the size of the pie and it brings more people, if you will, liquidity in, right? It brings more people into this new asset class. That is hugely important, right? And so, someone day one they're not going to walk into DeFi or Flare Networks or Flare Finance on day one, maybe not even year one, right? But they'll walk into Celsius where they can do a little bit of lending, they can do a little bit of borrowing. And once they learn that there's some better things, they can come into DeFi. But for those of us who've been in for a while, we realize that, talking about a financial product, talking about Roth IRAs, um, that's like so
I
1990s
know.
that we just,
Don't even get me started.
that we right, that we just gotta we have to know that's just not that there's some strategies maybe around that with an LLC and some real estate. But when we're talking crypto, right? And crypto's they're gonna take those old financial products, they're gonna bring them into the crypto space and make them better, right? And so, and my heart feels for people who are listening to these Roth RA things, and just missing the bigger picture to what we have here in the digital asset space. And when Securitize comes on, I don't know what they're going to do with Flare Networks, but people are going to be their mouths are going to drop to the floor when they see that the opportunity they have to be treated like the 1% of the 1%. That's what this DeFi space offers, and we need more people to kind of get that. Once they get it, it's game over, and we'll learn strategies together, and we'll learn portfolio management together, right? The thing is to understand that we need that. This is not your 2017 bull run. You're not going to come in here and just buy an asset and just hold on for dear life.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not going to happen, right?
It's kind of funny. I was thinking when you're talking about Celsius and like, it's bridging the traditional financial world with the DeFi world. And
Hmm.
I mean, it's like a gateway drug, but in a good sense.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
you get a taste of it. I got one of my buddy's friends, his dad does well for himself. And he was telling me he started getting in on Nexo and Celsius and was just shocked that he could get that much percentage on assets and was starting to get really into it. So
Yeah.
I was like, that's perfect. That's exactly what it's there for. And also with like making a dent into the current 1%, I do really think where if we get to a point where people become more financially literate and
Hmm.
understand how to put their assets to work, sure, it
Yep.
doesn't have to be on the level of the top people, but at least in some way, we can
Mm.
start closing that gap. Like
Yep.
even if you imagine if you're somebody that, just has had a tough life, you got a job that pays you crap, but you can save a little bit. But, you just start saving some of it. Maybe you start earning some yield on it and maybe something good happens to you.
Yep.
You get one of those assets pops up in price a little. Now you're in a whole different area. And that's because you
Mhm.
just started with a little and you just
Yep.
started getting to work. You don't have to wait until you have a lot to get to work. Sure,
Yep.
it's going to take you longer, more than likely, to get to where you want to go. But, you got to set yourself up for like these like events that happen in the world that don't always happen, and just be there so you can take it, I guess have exposure to it. We
Hmm.
don't have to, you don't have to wait until you have $100,000 to take
Right.
advantage of the stuff. Like I think it's very plausible with 10K for you to at least start doing well, and then you
Hmm.
get that XRP pop in price to $10, and now you're like, dang, I got $100,000 now and I can really get to work on this stuff. So,
Hmm. Yep.
there's just a lot of options. And the other thing is, yes, Flare Network is a lot to learn about and something really new for a lot of our community. But
Hmm.
don't underestimate, the ability to compound your knowledge daily.
Right.
Whether it's just taking 15 minutes to read somebody's blog post or, read through half, maybe a fourth of the white paper on Flare. Maybe you don't understand and you got to take some time to look stuff up. Like
Mm.
for me, there's been many times, like my last job I had,
Mm.
when I first started, it was my first one out of college. I
Mm.
felt super dumb for like three
Mm.
months and I was like, this is insane. And
Mm.
then it just kind of started adding up. And then you start picking up on things because you've learned more and more that you would have never picked up on before. And the
Abs-
same thing kind of happens with DeFi and becoming financially literate. Like you hear something one of us said that you don't understand, just go look it up on Google. We live in an amazing time where
mm.
the knowledge of the world is at your fingertips. And it's like, why remember how to, do multiply all these numbers and stuff when you just have a phone to do it? Well, yeah, you don't have to keep everything in your head because hop on Google, you probably can find it. Now,
Uh,
obviously, you got to weed through information sometimes, but normally when you're looking for definitions and things like that, it's pretty
mhm.
easy and straightforward.
Absolutely. And that's the difference too, right? Because successful people do what unsuccessful people are not willing to do. Everybody has 10, 15 minutes to hop on the DeFiStandard.com, right? I was just on there yesterday, the day before yesterday, just learning about the state connector system, right? How that works with Flare Networks, right? Just taking it a little bit at a time, every single day, taking in 15 to 20 minutes to learn just a little bit. And you're right, it does it add up, right? It adds up and it compounds, and it's a pretty powerful thing once you get in the habit of doing it, right? I mean, this is where sometimes I think, how does Mickey, where did he get that brain from, right? Like, how does he take in that information and understand it and be able to get it out to the community the way that he does, right? And so, right, it's just learning, a little bit every single day for those of us who don't have, might have that capacity. And yeah, Flare Networks is a lot to it. I always kind of try to get the big picture, kind of grasp my mind around the bigger picture, and then kind of share that. And once you get a good sense for people, and you get a good sense for the problem that they're trying to solve. Once you kind of get that and that makes sense, then you can move forward. And again, I think the average Joe and the average Jane, they don't know yet, but it's our job to kind of let them know that this new asset class, and there's learning to be had here. We want to help people get away from this just getting that asset and just holding on to it. No, we want to put it to work. You want to learn portfolio management and strategies, and earn this wealth. It's not going to just come by just kind of sitting around and putting it on a ledger, right? Let's put in the work so that we feel so good about the millions or the tens of millions possibly that we can earn. Yeah, let's get the work, because when we know, like, there's no doubt that you and Mickey be fresh, right? There's no shot of being like, well, do I really deserve this, right? There's no shot of that kind of thinking, right? Because
No,
you guys
no.
put in the work, right? You put in the work, right? And you put your money behind where your mouth is, right? And so those things are important. And again, I go back to my 2018 thought. There's got to be more to just buying this thing and just sitting back, right? There's got to be a little bit more to it. And I get it. It's not, the work is not being out in the hot sun, laying down some tar or stuff like that. But there is work here to be done and to get that kind of wealth. And especially if you're talking generational wealth, you're gonna need some strategy. You're gonna need a team, right? All of these things is gonna require is some work. So let's do it together and let's learn together.
Yeah, and I mean, if you want generational wealth, you're probably gonna have to sacrifice some of your current time for your kids, their grandkids, and all that to pay off.
Right.
So you're the one taking the risk for your family there. But
Mhm.
um, well, we're about an hour 15 in. I think this could probably be a good wrapping up point. Too bad Mickey didn't come on, but I mean, I'm sure we'll do some more talks in the
Yeah,
future and
absolutely.
all that stuff. But I really enjoyed. This was definitely a different kind of podcast, I feel, than we
Mhm.
normally do. So I
Mhm.
really enjoyed the path that it went. And thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, man, it's a pleasure to be here. And again, thanks to you and Vicky Be Fresh for continuing to help us to level up our knowledge about this space. It's a godsend for sure, and we appreciate you guys.
Absolutely. And remember, if anybody wants to check out any of Crypto Siege work, it's crypto and then CEEJ. That's his name. He's on Twitter, he's on Facebook and on YouTube. So check out all that stuff. Also, if you have a hard time finding it, just reach out to me and I'll point you in the right direction. But that'll wrap it up. This is the DeFi Standard. I'm Patty XRP, and this was Crypto Siege with me, and we're out. See you
All right.
guys.
See you guys.